This video takes you through how to find your PAYE income online on your digital personal tax account. This is needed basically for tax return purposes, potentially for mortgage references and lots of other fun stuff. So the P45 and P60 are definitely needed for completing your tax return. It shows how much income you've earned in that employment in that tax year. A P45 is if you have left employment in the tax year, and a P60 is the end of year summary for an employment or for all employments in the year. It depends on whether the employer has included prior employer income into their system. So sometimes you might have a P60 that says previous employment, this employment equals a total. For your tax return, you must have the details per employment. Now, what I will say is the P60 will show any student loan deducted, and that is quite key if you are doing self-assessment, because you have to earn over a certain amount before student loan is deducted. If it's deducted from PAYE and you have self-employed income as well, potentially you will have more student loan to pay out. If you don't know how much you've paid out on your student loan and you do your tax return, then you'll have to pay it all over again, which leads to an overpayment. Now, unfortunately, the P45s don't actually show any student loan that has been deducted. It just gives a little tick to say people will have to continue taking student loan when you change jobs. The only way to find out how much student loan you've paid on a job you have left in the tax year is to look at all the individual payslips and add it up. So keep your payslips. Now, legally, these P45s and P60s have to be issued by the employer if they have deducted any taxes from you. If no taxes have been issued, then they don't actually have to issue a P45 or a P60. But most payroll systems now will do it automatically, and you can ask for one. So we said they're needed for the tax return. That's great. Now, if you do your own tax return, these fields in the tax return employment section should be populated ready for you. However, if you have a tax agent doing your tax return, they cannot see this data. They have no access to any of it, so you need to send them the P45s and P60s and potentially the payslips to work out student loan. Unfortunately, it's just one of those quirks that tax agents don't get to see everything. You would have thought a tax agent should do, but no. So, yes, so just be prepared that you might have a tax agent or accountant that is asking for this information and you sit there and think, why? There is a way of getting it, but you have to have commercial software and have all the links set up, etc. And that increases the fees that an accountant will charge you. So keep your P60s, keep your P45s, keep your payslips until the tax return is definitely done, and then always keep the P45s and P60s for at least 7 years. So, what do we want to do? Well, guess what? We want to log into your digital tax account, and this will be into your personal tax account. So if you have a setup that automatically goes to the business tax account, stroll down to the bottom and you'll be able to go to the personal tax account. Here's the access code here. This is the URL you can use. Input your government gateway ID, which is 12 digits long, input the password and click sign in. Okay. So this is the screen that you might see initially. So this person here has PAYE and doesn't have anything else like some of the screens you might have seen on previous videos, so it just says what they might have paid in the last two tax years. But they've only got PAYE set up because at the moment they are only employed as PAYE. They had no reason to do a tax return, but coming forward they will be a landlord, but that's a different video. So you want to click on PAYE, and this will give you an overview of what you want to look at. So you can look at what you've got for the current year, so what your employers think you're going to pay. You can go and look at whatever you think your tax code might be for the next year if you want to do any planning, or you want to check previous tax years. So what we're actually going to do is check the previous tax year in order to get a complete list of what income you might have had. So check previous tax year. Automatically I've gone for 2019-20, and you'll see this person has 2 employments set up. Okay, it will tell you the employer name. So this one I've got Happy School Limited and Music Mug Limited. It will say how much your gross pay has been for each of those employments. Okay, that is not the end of the story. Oh, no, because that's gross pay. You will probably find that you have had a tax deducted. So what we need to do is go and look at, what tax has been deducted. So where we want to go from there is we want to look at, check the income details that have been sent to HMRC. I'm only going to look at one of these companies. It's going to be exactly the same for both of them. Well, the figures will be different, but the process is exactly the same. So this now takes for Music Mug Limited. It shows this person was actually only employed by them and paid by them for 1 month, and that happened to be April. So what you'll find is their taxable income was £1,798.69, and the income tax paid was £151.20, and national insurance £146.81. The figures you'll need to provide your accountant if you don't have a P45 or P60 for Music Mug Limited are these 2 here, the taxable income and the income tax paid. Okay. Now, what it does not show you is the PAYE code, and that is required for your tax return. So if you don't have any previous years P45s or P60s or P60s from the same employer, all you can do is put unknown when it comes to writing the PAYE code into your tax return for employment. Okay, so they're the figures you need. If this person had been employed for more than 1 month, then there'll be a complete list of all the payroll files that employer has sent to HMRC. Okay, so that's the easiest way of pulling your PAYE data. If there is nothing up there or you can't see anything there, the only other way to get the data for your tax return on PAYE employment is to phone HMRC on 0300 200 3310, and you can ask them to send you a statement of earnings for the year. They'll gripe because they'll turn around and say, why haven't you kept your P45s or P60s? You'll have to explain why, etc. And then they'll ask, why don't you have access to your online account? I do know during 2020, quite a lot of firms closed down for various periods of time, so some P45s and P60s were not actually issued. So this is potentially the only place you're going to get that data. So just having a browse around your account, so still in your personal tax account, there are other things you can look at. So you could look at your national insurance record. If you scroll down the screen, you'll get more information, or there's more things to look at, and one of them is national insurance. So you can look at how much you've paid every year. If you're not too sure of your national insurance number, then you can look through here and you'll get your letter, or you can view gaps in your record. So let's just have a quick look at that. All right, so we're going to view if there are any gaps in your PAYE record. Alrighty. So for this person here, that person has 31 years of contributions, must be old, and they still have 16 years to contribute before they can potentially retire. Now, you actually only need 35 years of full year's contributions in order to get the state pension, and that is as of March 2021. Who knows, it may change in the future. They may say, you know, you're not getting your pension at 68, you're going to get it at 70 or 75 or 80. So you may end up having more years to contribute. So what we have is this will show if you've got tax years there and if they're full or not full. You can look, if you go on to view details, you can look and see how that tax year is made up. So I'm going to pick example years, going back a few years, and here we go. So you'll see here for these tax years, we've got here this person had 52 weeks to self-employment, so that year's full, this year's full, that year's full, but it does depend on the split. So this person had some paid employment in the year, and they also paid a full amount of self-employment. Going further back, that person had mostly paid employment, but in order to fill the gap, they paid for 5 weeks worth of voluntary contributions. Voluntary contributions will fill up previous years, but you can only go back 4 years in order to pay voluntary contributions. And what would happen is if you expanded these and it said if this said not full year, it should tell you how much you would have to pay in order to make up that year of national insurance. It is not necessarily the class 3 national insurance rate, which is something like £15.30 a week, which is a horrendous amount of money. So if you are self-employed, go for class 2 and make sure you just pay it all up, because it's only £150–60 a year. So that's where you can find your list of full years or partial years and how they are made up. In the personal tax account, you can look at what your state pension is going to be. So if you go back to the main menu, you will see a section on pensions, and if you click through to your state pension forecast, which was this one here, you'll then get, as of April 2020, which is the end of the last tax year, this person was only going to get £143.84 a week if they didn't contribute anymore. If they contributed for another 7 years, they can get per week £175.20. If they contributed for more than 7 years, it will not change their forecast. So the only way they can change the forecast, instead of taking their pension at 68, then and you delayed it for a few years, then you can therefore get more pension later on because the government aren't supporting you for the immediate period. So that really is a quick swirl around your personal tax account looking for your PAYE information. So any problems, please feel free to drop me an email and we'll try and help. Thanks, Em.